Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Anthony Carlisle. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in the show today, Tzu volunteers in Oakland, California help warm up patients waiting outside a huge free clinic in the early hours of the morning. We investigate the issue of high-level radioactive waste stored up in Taiwan's nuclear power stations. And later in the show, trainee volunteers in South Africa learn how to look after their care recipients. But we start today's show in Indonesia, where since the beginning of the year, the capital city of Jakarta has suffered a spate of fire disasters. Recently, Tzu's Indonesia chapter launched a poverty alleviation program to help fire victims who have no means to rebuild their homes. As for property owners who lost their title deeds in a fire, the government has promised to help them apply for new documents.
In Jakarta of Indonesia, a fire in a community affected 177 households. Currently, many local residents are staying at other people's house. Some of the buildings are holding 8 households, totaling approximately 30 people.
I hope to have a home back. I know the house cannot be the same anymore, but as long as we have a place to live, it's all right.
Tzu Indonesia chapter started the poverty alleviation program to help fire victims that have their real estate title to rebuild their homes. As for residents that lost their title during the fire, the government promises to help them apply for a new one.
The local residents and we hope the poverty alleviation program can start as soon as possible. As for meeting the criteria for Tzu Indonesia chapter's poverty alleviation program, the government will contact other units and help fire victims obtain their real estate title.
The volunteers explain the rebuilding process to fire victims and also introduce Tzu. Now, with a better understanding of each other, collaboration in the future will be much smoother.
Over the last 2 days, we've been bringing you reports from Oakland in the US state of California on the happenings at the huge free clinic jointly held by Remote Area Medical and Tzu. Patients who didn't get to see a doctor on the first day of the clinic waited patiently outside the Oakland Coliseum throughout the night so they could be first in line when the door opened on the following day. Tzu volunteers showed up at 5 o'clock in the morning with hot drinks and some warm-up exercises to help them through the last leg of their long wait.
It is just after 4 in the morning and the drizzling sky hasn't lightened up yet. However, at the entrance of Oakland Coliseum in the US state of California, a crowd has formed in anticipation of the joint free clinic by Remote Area Medical and Tzu. Volunteers led everyone in warm-up exercises to fight off the freezing cold. A lot of the queuing patients didn't get a chance to see the doctor on the first day of the event. Visually impaired Victoria Hillis waited since midnight for a free consultation that is hard to come by.
But I was delighted. It sounded like such a happy song, and everyone was really into it, and even they drew the audience into also, and it was wonderful. It broke.
On the second and third day of the joint free clinic offered by Remote Area Medical and Tzu, most of the patients are troubled by tooth problems that they cannot afford to treat without medical insurance. Dental patient Tiffany Beshe has regained her confidence through the treatment.
No more children looking up and going, ah, no, you know, and scared, you know, I won't have to be so embarrassed. But
I feel wonderful. I feel very excited about the things that I've seen that's being done for the people who need and whatnot. So I'm very happy to see the people's smiles and whatnot, yeah.
To have a roof over my head, able to have a warm bed at night to sleep in, and actually helping everyone here yesterday and today has really appreciate everything that my mom.
The 4-day free clinic served over 1,000 people, fulfilling its goal of helping the needy, particularly from remote areas.
We go to the area of Qishan in Taiwan's Kaohsiung for our next story to meet a father who lives with his two daughters in a house that dates back to the Japanese colonial era. The home, which was once used to process tobacco, is almost unfit for human habitation. The family came to the attention of the local social affairs department, who notified charity organisations, and for 4 weekends, volunteers worked to renovate the house. The result was what the youngest daughter called a gift from heaven.
Visiting her new room, the youngest daughter of the Feng family can't help but feel excited.
I like every room. They all make me feel comfortable. It's different than before. Before, it was totally different. It was a total mess. Coming home, I will want to throw up from seeing the filth.
The house that the family lives in is actually an old Japanese tobacco processing building that had been abandoned for 40 years. When a family of 3 moved in, they faced abysmal living conditions.
The wall here had already fallen down, and they helped patch it up. Also these 2 doors. They used to be rotting wood. Now they have been replaced by new plastic doors. We can live here, but going upstairs was dangerous, as we were afraid the ceiling would fall in. It was all too old.
The single dad makes a paltry salary doing odd jobs for a living. And once his daughters started school, they had to live with their father in this 10 square meter bedroom. However, thanks to Kaohsiung's Social Affairs Bureau and volunteers, the house was transformed in a month.
Areas that were leaking in the ceiling or walls had to be patched up. Windows also had to be repaired. I want to thank everyone who came out to help.
Seeing how they helped others, in the future I will do my best to also help others.
Feng Zixuan says the new house is like a gift from heaven. It has brought much happiness to her life, and she now can study in peace. She says she hopes in the future she can do the same for others.
In today's visit to Germany, we visit Frankfurt, 1/3 of which is covered in a huge green belt of parks and bicycle paths that circle the heart of the city. That's not the only way the city is trying to cut back on its carbon footprint. The market in the centre of Frankfurt sells locally grown organic farming produce, and the German financial capital is also the home to an ethical bank that will invest your money in sustainable projects. However, there is still much more that could be done, as we find out from the protesters who are occupying Frankfurt outside the Central European Bank. Here's the latest in our series called A City's Green Journey.
This place was at the center of the European debt crisis. It is the Central European Bank in Frankfurt. Since October 15, 2011, crowds of protesters have gathered here to occupy Frankfurt, setting up tents. They have occupied the spot for 53 days to demonstrate against the politicians and banks that control our financial markets.
In Germany, the occupation movement has taken a new twist.
There are also some anti-nuclear signs here, or some demands for ecological and environmental protection, which is a link between financial and conservation issues.
99% here means for all of us.
The 99% movement is a reaction to the power that's in the hands of the privileged 1%, like the people in charge of Deutsche Bank, who have been criticized for manipulating world food markets.
Basically, these banks represent an old economic model, which is focused purely on profit. Ethical issues and environmental issues come second.
That's why Germany has an ethical bank that promises to use your money in a more meaningful way by investing in renewable energy and organic farming. The bank's business model moves away from motives of profit and economics to focus on ethics and social justice. Although they appear to be unrelated issues, finance and conservation are closely linked. Financial trading stimulates the global market and puts a greater variety of products on the supermarket shelves, which creates the problem of food miles.
This is a square outside Frankfurt Cathedral, where during the day residents can do their grocery shopping. Unlike Chinese markets, the stores are owned by local farmers who sell freshly grown and chemical-free food.
Buying local produce to cut down on food miles is one way to reduce carbon emissions from transportation.
I think that the consumers are getting more and more conscious about this topic because it's like, well, it might be more healthy and it's better for the soil and it's better for the climate maybe, and well, yeah, I think it's getting more conscious.
For these shoppers, supporting local and seasonal produce comes first.
Sometimes I buy organic food for the children and old people at home for their health. The kindergarten also gives the children organic food.
In the last decade, organic stores have grown in size. This supermarket has a chain of 26 shops all over Germany.
These organic shops used to be tiny, and the price was much higher than regular food. But now they have combined. The price has come down significantly.
From the perspective of cutting carbon, vegetarian food is more eco-friendly than meat. So organic stores also have a greater variety of vegetarian products.
You can see some tofu yogurt here. In recent years, this has become more common and popular. You couldn't buy soy milk in Germany before, because Germany was a kingdom of dairy products.
The rise of consumer power in Germany has also exerted its influence on urban planning. Academia Sinica research fellow Fabian Hubel is currently a visiting professor in Frankfurt. On his tour around the city where he grew up, he takes us to his favorite part, the bicycle paths. 1/3 of Frankfurt is a green belt that runs around the heart of the city.
People like to ride their bicycles on the green belt because it's more comfortable. And of course, there's less traffic. So in terms of lifestyle, it has really made a difference.
The green belts used to be covered in concrete until the Green Party took power and ripped out the concrete jungle, replacing it with a huge urban park.
The land here is very expensive, so this was a big proposal. How do you balance as a city government? How do you balance a city's sustainable development and planning?
Frankfurt's green belt shows how Germans have made living in harmony with nature part of their daily routine.
Tomorrow we'll go to the German countryside to meet a group of farmers who are using modern environmental technology to transform a century-old farm.
Yesterday we looked at Taiwan's low-level nuclear waste, which is stored on Lanyu Island. High-level waste, such as spent fuel rods, is stored in each of the country's 3 nuclear power plants. However, the stations have already far exceeded the capacity of their original storage space. In our next feature, we examine the potential dangers posed by Taiwan's radioactive waste.
This rock formation on Taiwan's Lanyu Island is named the Dragon's Head due to its unique shape. However, after 1982, it became the symbol of the nuclear waste storage facility.
You can't bypass that area, for there's only one main road that encircles the island. When you pass here, you consciously roll up your windows and step on the gas.
Lanyu does not use nuclear power, yet the island's residents have been living in fear of the 97,960 barrels of nuclear waste stored here for the past 30 years. The nuclear waste storage facility on Lanyu is but the tip of an iceberg. Since 1996, low-level waste was no longer being shipped to Lanyu, but stored in Taiwan's 3 nuclear power plants. Besides the nearly 100,000 barrels, the spent fuel rods are also stored there. Fuel rods inside the nuclear reactor allows for nuclear fission to take place and generate energy. Inside each rod are uranium pellets that are bombarded by neutrons. The splitting of the uranium generates incredible amounts of energy, which is then used to heat water, generate steam, propel a turbine, and generate electricity. Every 18 months, 1/3 of a reactor's fuel rods need to be replaced.
To date, the fuel rods that we have used are placed in the cooling tank by the reactors. The tank is about 5 floors high, but since we have split that into half to make room, the depth of the coolant from the surface is only about 1 meter. If there is an earthquake and some coolant is lost, spent fuel rods could become exposed, leading to serious problems.
After calculations, we figure out the storage space of the tank. It can hold this much. It should be filled in 4 to 5 years. So plant 1 will be full by 2019. When it's full, it can no longer operate, not unless you remove the rods.
Without a final solution to process the spent fuel rods, nuclear power plants will eventually have to shut down. However, the risk remains. In April of last year, Nature magazine evaluated the world's 211 nuclear power plants and stated Taiwan's Plant 1 and 2 were among the world's 3 most dangerous power plants.
Nuclear power plant 1 and 2 are both within some 20 kilometers radius of Taiwan's capital. In the case of Japan's nuclear disaster, all within this range needed to be evacuated. How many of Taiwan's government agencies are within this range? Without a doubt, if there was a nuclear disaster, Taiwan's political and financial center would be shut down.
If there was a nuclear disaster, radioactive materials would be released in the atmosphere. In 1990 and 1991, we performed a total of 4 tracking experiments by releasing SF6 into the atmosphere. In just about 2 hours, the ones from Plant 2 reached NTU.
National Taiwan University is 24.8 kilometers away from Plant 2. During the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, the evacuation radius was 20 to 30 kilometers. Yet Taiwan's evacuation radius was only increased from 5 to 8 kilometers. In February, a France newspaper reported Taiwan's spent fuel rods have far exceeded the country's storage capacity.
Perhaps the original design calls for 20 spent fuel rods per square meter, but you jammed 40 inside. This will make heat dissipation difficult, so the contaminants inside is not an accumulation of 2 to 3 years, but 30 years. If the cooling system shut down, we could have less reaction time compared to Fukushima.
Nuclear power has been in use for nearly 6 decades. Scientists still don't know what to do about the spent fuel rods. Yet, Taiwan's government seems rather confident in their dealings on the issue.
The waste that is being produced, how will the government handle it? Wherever it's sent, it will pollute that area. The government has already demonstrated its incapability of handling Lanyu's problem, yet another nuclear plant is being built. Will that waste really be processed properly?
At Lanyu Island, the radiation level is below the average in Taiwan. That we can guarantee. The radiation people here are exposed to won't be higher than that of the main island.
The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster happened only 1 year ago. The people of Japan are still suffering from its effects, yet both Taiwan's government and citizens seem rather ignorant of the potential threat, which could doom the island for thousands of years.
Recently, 100 city volunteers visited Taichung Women's Prison in central Taiwan to put on a performance of the Water Repentance Sutra. One inmate who was convicted of robbery and murder when she was still a minor was sentenced to 10 years in prison. She went on stage to share her story and repent for her mistakes.
After chanting the sutra and watching a performance by volunteers, these prisoners are in tears. On stage, the volunteers perform Xiaoling's story. Xiaoling's parents separated when she was young. She never had the chance to feel the warmth of family. Xiaoling worked as a bidona beauty, but after she met her boyfriend, her behavior got worse, and she eventually committed robbery and murder. When she was sentenced, she was still a minor.
And here I realized I'm the one that controls my life.
In prison, Xiaoling can finally let go her hatred towards her father and boyfriend.
Instead of blaming them for what they have done to me, it is better for me to thank them for being part of my life.
They have served for what they did before. It's in the past. They need to learn to change. From today's performance, they will return with positive energy.
Through repenting, these individuals understand that to have a better life, it is up to them to change.
Our last story today takes us to South Africa, where city volunteers in Gauteng organised the first seminar of the year for their local colleagues. Participants went on home visits to Tembisa with experienced volunteers to learn how to best take care of and interact with local care recipients.
The more than 20 local volunteers from Johannesburg and Pretoria in South Africa have come out here to the township of Tembisa on a field trip as part of their volunteer workshop.
Or do the scrubbing, we need to wear the gloves to protect ourselves and also protect our patients.
A lot of our volunteers have said that they want to learn more about home visitations in poor townships, which is why we have organized the workshop out here in Tembisa.
The highlights of the day are the actual home visitations, where volunteer Salamina took her fellow caregivers to visit care recipient Salama, an HIV/AIDS patient who suffered a stroke. The ailing woman is feeling better and happier now thanks to the volunteers' care.
This hand was not like that, was like this all the time. But when I started to muscle him, now the hands, it's okay. You can see now.
I was not like this before. I was very bad. Yes, now I'm better, 100% better.
Salamina made it her responsibility to visit Salama every day to help massage her previously unyielding limbs. The regular physical therapy has helped Salama stand up again, and now she's able to celebrate her health by singing with volunteers.
I say thanks for Suchi. Thanks, Suchi. Thanks to teach me, to give me a power to love another people.
Having received her certification as a city commissioner last year, Salamina is even more determined to devote herself to humanitarian work and sets a good example for local volunteers.
A Canadian tourist visiting Malaysia noticed the litter on the ground and decided to launch a clean-up campaign. Local city volunteers were only too happy to help. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.